During the first run, Azarov performed his classic move, lunging at his opponent during initiation, hoping for things to unfold in his favor, which they ultimately didn't. There's not much to say here, really. Kozlov was free to sail to the finish line. And things went exactly the same way for Azarov in the lead position. He started well, failed miserably, and lost to Kozlov, who in fact considered that his worst heat of the entire race. Were interesting to watch. Max in the chase position is super aggressive during initiation, which almost results in him leaving the track, but he keeps it together and shows us some quality tandem drifting, in no small part due to Damir's excellent performance in the lead. The second run looked very similar, but Damir didn't make as many mistakes as Grossman, making him the winner of this round.
And the chaser is very close to the leader, and he starts transition earlier, but he doesn't get in the way of the driver from crash off the drift, and they're board by board, side by side, approaching the inner clip, and the last thrust. And
two drivers colliding. In the aforementioned final bend, Miguel did not get on throttle in time, while Sorkaput seemingly made no effort to avoid crashing into the leader while trying to catch up with him. Goch and Kozlov sometimes had a similar dynamic. The judges spent a lot of time trying to figure out whose mistake was more severe, and ruled that Miguel was at fault for the crash, as it was him who was late to get on throttle, another 8 meters after the dotted line and still no smoke from his tires. Also his clean lead run-in, with Anton also being more on point in the chase, though he narrowly avoided hitting the wall next to Touch and Go 6. At first glance, some might have thought that Kliemko had the upper hand, but the only judge.
And nice initiation there by Mokin, not from the beginning, but right now there he is in both outer zones. Shanahan leaving a little bit of space, but now it's the part where he should have been closer. He's trying to come closer, but it seems that Mokin has a really much speed if we compare to Shanahan, and one more transition in there.
Despite both of them making minor mistakes and keeping their distance, their duel was fairly tame and uneventful, if that's even an appropriate way to describe drifting. What the spectators most likely didn't notice was something important that the judges saw and was recorded in the drift dynamics data. Ilya began to slow down before the braking zone, and incrementally, which created problems for Dan as the chaser. And Denis Sorkaput performed pretty much as expected. Roman was good in the lead, if not for correction in OZ1, and Denis was sticking pretty close. Overall, it was a decent run. The second run was the decider. Denis made plenty of mistakes as the leader, while Roman, regardless of what his opponent was doing, stuck close and was precise.
Dmitry Semenyuk had to retire because of technical issues, and let's see how Gusev can drive really close to the wall at this point, also close to the second wall. Let's see how he does outer zone 3. He does it well, he does it almost perfectly. Coming up to touch and go 2, he is there. Outside zone 4, he is also there with both wheels, and right now coming to the last corner, coming to touch and go 3, and that's
Roman Tivadar and his first run, and this is the initiation. And let me remind you that this Silvia S15 is absolutely identical with the other Silvias of Ford Auto. He successfully goes through touch and go 1. He goes through the OZ1 without big adventure as well. Yes, the touch and go 2, which costs you 7 points, is also taken. And there's only one last OZ and the Monander. This is the second part of this final. Damir Tulen is making a very careful initiation. He doesn't risk it. And just look how aggressively goes Roman Tivadar through this curve. What a great lead run. Damir Tulen is cutting it through the no-go zone, the last transition.
Be familiar with Ilya Polishuk, unlike Georgy Chivchian, but you might want to Google him. Polishuk is a very formidable opponent, even for the likes of Gochem, as long as Ilya's cars don't break. And that's exactly how their battle played out. Both drivers made some mistakes in the lead. Polishuk missed a good 3 clipping points while allowing a few wheels to go astray, while Chivchian missed touch and go 5, wasn't effective with his throttle inputs, with a bit of lag, and also clumsily correct modest angle. He was following too aggressive like that and he still wasn't able to keep up. So Kuznetsov was going past the 3s at a modest angle and correcting to make it medium, but according to my assignment, when moving from 3/3 to 4, there had to be a constant increase in angle, so that he'd hit 4 at a modest angle, but relative to the turn, and not because he chose a modest angle for 3/3, which he then carried to 4. And so he began to increase.
Is now running on a new suspension. It looks like Sergei Kuznetsov is content with the innovations. At least the qualifying looked very convincing. Touch and go 1, then Sergei Kuznetsov is carefully running to collect touch and go number 2. Then he does a transition in precise conformity with the judge's assignment. Now here is narrowing down the line and the area where the vehicles are allowed to run without violating the rules. Then touch equipped with white discs. This is very easy to tell which car belongs to Denis, and this is very nice initiation, even though he can do it better. I'm sure that we will see something very similar. He picks 2 touch and goes in the first sectors, and this is the most valuable, the most precious souls at 1, which costs 10 points for the angle and for the line. And here he goes from A to Z using the entire space, and this is the last part where he touches. Igor Gusev is doing a run-in. Furidashi, and yes, that was the first clip, the transition right there, and he is very close to perfection in touch and go 1. And here he does a transition, but 1 wheel was definitely outside the white line, and another transition, and the last one in the second outside clip. He was a little bit too wide, this driver from Nahodka, but nevertheless he can run. His first result was 89.5, half a point away from the 90. And now here comes the initiation, goes around the no-go zone, and he takes touch and go 1, transition, outset, yes, very good though, could be broader. Then the first, the second, now go in and in and in, and this is not that bad. And the last touch and go, very strictly along the line without any violations, and the last.
Anatoly Sherbak, I think a better outside line right now in the first corner. That's really impressive. Good transition there to outside zone 2. A really nice fluid run up until this point. Smoke, sound, power, everything is there from Anatoly Sherbak at this point. He gets also on to outside zone 3. Almost over the line, but much better line. Touch and go 1 is good. Touch and go 2 is good. And it's a much better run for Anatoly Sherbak. So let's see, good initiation, has to stay on the outside line there. Really good there, and Mokin trying to come back. He's really close with a little bit more shallow angle. Tries to stay with Jack Shanahan, of course. Oh, that's really close. Nice doing big angle there for him. Loses a little bit of proximity, tries to come back with a shallower angle, and what a battle there. Shanahan, of course, doing everything perfectly and really close up until the
And then let off the gas as if something scared him. Vlad experienced no such setbacks. He mashed the pedal and drove away, compensating for any power disadvantage. Denis's fate was sealed when his angle dropped to 2 degrees after the first transition, not to mention crossing the finish on straight wheels. That's a 0. Shubadyurov did make mistakes in the lead, but he did a decent enough job. Fyodorov go 1 more time. The situation is very similar to their initial heat, except for one minor detail. Leonid isn't going wide enough as the leader, and while there is some distance between them, Ilya is mirroring all of his opponent's movements. The aforementioned detail comes up after they switch places. Ilya is not repeating the mistake he made in the first heat when 3 wheels left the track. Schneider is very aggressive, almost hitting his opponent, but a tad sloppy. 2 out of 3 judges rule in favor of declaring
the SGP. So let's see Shanahan, really snappy transition, staying with the angle, right now. Coming to really close to the wall at outside zone 2. Right now, really filling out outside zone 3, coming back, coming to touch and go 2, and outside zone 4, and up to touch and go 3. So
that is very long for the handbrake, Nikita Shikov. But the most important thing starts after the restart. He'll go one, then transition, and now he goes wider. He goes wide and also at one, and he seemed to have corrected a little bit, but then he gets the touch and go two. Then he touches the white line with his wheel, and maybe some space outside as well. I'm speaking.
And let's see how they will compete against each other. We see that Kristaps is really close. Almost contact there by Kristaps against Skorubogatov, and Skorubogatov tries, of course, to do his best to maintain. And Kristaps is closer. What an aggressive run! What an aggressive chase run by Kristaps. They have one more transition left, really close up until the wall, and the last corner tries to make everything up, and what an amazing